Unlike RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars, I needed to take a break. But now I'm back to talk about more controversial winners. Welcome to Wild Spear, where today we'll be talking about the most controversial winner results in Drag Race. If you haven't seen my videos where I talk about the US and All-Stars as well as some international franchises, check out my previous two videos. If you watched my previous videos, you'll know that I classify these queens based on three different categories. Number one, the producers did not give the queen a storyline that justified her winning that particular season. Number two, the frontrunner of the competition was eliminated before the finale. And number three, the fans just wanted somebody else more. Based on this most recent finale, I'm actually going to be adding a fourth bullet here, which is the queen who won the season didn't win the finale episode. And that's where we will start on today's video. Upon making this video, I'm just going to catch up on a couple seasons that we have not talked about before we dive into the Versus the World seasons, which is the main topic of today's video. To start off, we had Drag Race Season 17 for the US franchise. We had Anya Nerve taking the win as the frontrunner of the competition with the most wins and the queen with the most fan support. So why was her win controversial? That's because of that fourth reason that I just added to my list. Anya killed the competition, she was a great queen, she showed she was multifaceted, but she didn't kill the finale episode. In the finale episode, we had four queens going into that finale, those being Jewel Sparkles, Lexi Love, Anya Nerve, and Sam Starr. Based on fan support and reception, it was pretty clear that Anya was going to be in that top two along with Jewel Sparkles, most likely. However, we had the queens each giving an individual performance in that finale, and if that was supposed to mean anything, in my opinion, I think Sam Starr probably had the best performance, and you can hate me in the comments or not, but I think she really showed a lot. And Anya gave something that she had already given. Jules was somebody who performed a song that I just don't know, it fit her personality. And then Lexi was roller skating again. She did a great job as well, but I didn't think Lexi was going to be in that final. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter as much. Those performances, we saw that with all the other seasons, like season 15. We knew Anitra and Sasha would be that top two. We knew Jules and Anya would be that top two. The controversy really came in the lip sync performance. For the final lip sync, we had Abracadabra by Lady Gaga, a dark pop anthem from earlier that year, and we saw each of the queens come out in looks that would potentially have a reveal. Except for Anya. Instead, she came out draped in the blood of Christ like Hillary Clinton on her way to Good Friday service. Meanwhile, Jules came out as a BDSM version of Singing in the Rain, and both of these looks really set us up for kind of an okay lip sync. Anya started out and she was really going 100, and then she kind of ran out of moves at the end of the lip sync. Meanwhile, Jules did slightly better in that lip sync, but it seemed like she was very focused on her reveals, and her reveals just weren't that interesting. But at the end of the day, the fan consensus was that Jules won that final lip sync. For that reason, there was a mild bit of controversy around that simply because the lip sync was something that should have mattered. But it didn't matter in the end, and Anya was given the crown. Like I said, not a super controversial winner result, but still something that caused a little bit of a buzz in the competition. A couple other seasons that have happened since the recording of my last video would be Down Under Season 4, UK Series 6, and Canada Season 5. Down Under does a pretty good job of justifying their winners across all of their seasons, and this was no different. Lazy Susan was the frontrunner in the competition, and she had the most fan support, so no controversy here. On UK Series 6, we did see more controversy from the UK franchise. After having Ginger Johnson win with the most fan support and the top track record, this looked like the UK was moving towards a more fan-focused result after a couple controversial years. But in this case, we had a top 2 of Kyran Thrax and Lavoie. If you've watched my video about the UK controversial winner results, you'll know that the UK tends to favor queens who start off the competition by killing it and then slowly fading off by the end of the season over a queen who is doing amazing at the end of the season. This is the case that happened on Series 2 with Lawrence Chaney beating Bimini, and in Series 3 with Crystal Versace taking over Ella Vidae. In this case, we had Kyran, who won 2 episodes in the first 4 episodes of the season, and then Lavoie, who came on strong, winning 4 episodes across the remaining season. Kyran represented a different type of drag for Drag Race UK. She was edgy, she was punk, and she was weird. We hadn't really seen that from any of the UK winners. Meanwhile, Lavoie represented old school types of drag, and she was a consummate professional who just knew exactly what she needed to do. When we reached the finale, we knew these two would probably be the top 2 just because they had a storyline throughout the season. They both won Snatch Game together, and they were sort of an old-young dynamic duo. However, I think most people thought Lavoie was going to take this. She had the most fan support, and she had the best track record. So when Kyran won the season, there was a mild bit of controversy. I will say that Lavoie was somebody who didn't need to win the show in order to be successful. She already had a thriving career when it came to drag. And I also think, based on what I read, she is not somebody who really watched the show before she was cast on the season. For that reason, I think that Rue wanted to reward somebody who was a bigger fan of the show, or somebody who would benefit more from the show than somebody who has not really been in the Drag Race sphere. So that is our first controversial winner result on today's list. And just to think about those categories that we talked about at the very start, this was just a case of the fans wanting somebody else more. Kyran had a storyline to win, it was a justified win, but the fans just expected and wanted Lavoie more. Moving on to Canada Season 5, Canada has really struggled with creating storylines for their winners. We started to see that on Season 3, where a lot of fans didn't understand why Giselle Lullaby won. I don't think she was super controversial, but Giselle was the start of the trend where the fans started to lose the winner in the edit. The next season it got worse, with Venus taking the win even though she didn't seem like a fully rounded queen. And then I think Season 5 we reached a new height of fans not understanding why a queen would end up winning the season. Based on what we saw, the fans totally expected the top 2 to be the Virgo Queen and Michaela Couture, even though neither of them were the fan favorites of that season. Instead, we had somebody like Minnie Wang or Helena Poison who killed it in the competition, but they weren't able to actually close. But they weren't appreciated by the judges when it came to the finale. So let's talk about the season. The Virgo Queen was on the show with her drag daughter, Sanjina Debish Queen, and this was one of the first times that we had ever seen a drag mother and daughter together on screen, at least within Canada. Based on this, Virgo was already given sort of a motherly role on the season, and she did a great job at the start. She was in the top the very first episode, even though I don't think a lot of fans think she deserved to be there. And then she really had her breakout moment on the lip sync battles, where she won that episode. Beyond that though, Virgo really struggled on some key challenges, particularly the Snatch Game, where I think she gave probably one of the worst Snatch Games in Canada history. Sorry, Virgo. And then we started to really lose her until the judges decided to keep propping her up. By the time we got to the end, it was kind of a foregone conclusion that Virgo would be in that top 2. The fans, though, were behind Helena and Minnie much more. The problem was that Minnie flopped that finale performance. The choreographer that they have, Hollywood Jade, gave Minnie a non-dancer, crazy hard choreography and really set her up to fail. And Helena, they just didn't give her the time of day in that finale, even though she probably had the best performance among that final 4. At the end, we saw Michaela up against Virgo, and when Virgo won, it was kind of a result. Fans saw it coming. They weren't interested in the result, but they knew it was going to happen. This is a case where the producers did not give Virgo a storyline that justified her winning the season, by overpraising her for certain performances, as well as her struggling across some of our key challenges. Virgo was not giving the winner energy that fans expected for a winner of a Drag Race season. Moving on to UK versus the World. This is one of the most controversial series in all of Drag Race history. The first series is the greatest example that we have of the frontrunner being sent home before the finale, or should I say frontrunners plural. The season started off with Jimbo as the #1 frontrunner. She won the very first 2 episodes, with it being the ball and the talent show, with 2 amazing performances. Then she was promptly sent home the first time she fell into the bottom by Pangina Heels after struggling in the Rusical. After Jimbo was sent packing, Pangina got a taste of her own medicine when she was sent home by Blue Hydrangea the next episode in the Snatch Game. Pangina had won the first episode and the 3rd episode, so she was the next frontrunner. And by episode 4, we had lost the 2 frontrunners of the season. Only one other queen had won a challenge at that point more than once, and when I say one, I mean they were in the top 2, and that was Janey Jacké of Drag Race Holland. With 2 episodes left, we had the Girl Group Challenge, where we had 2 queens win with very different approaches, one being Jujubee, who won the challenge with just 2 lines in her verse, and then we had Mo Heart, who had probably one of the best verses in Drag Race history. After winning the lip sync, Jujubee decided to send home Janey Jacké, the only queen who had won 2 episodes by that point, and this was less controversial simply because Janey was in the bottom 2-3 times up to that point, and we ended up in the finale with 4 queens with just 1 win. With all of the frontrunners being sent home by episode 4 on this season, any queen winning that season would have been a controversial result, and many fans had already stopped watching. But I kept watching because I was loving the drama at that point. I think with this being the very first country versus the world season, this was going to be a UK queen winning, and I thought the fans were loving Blue more than they were loving Baga. And the polls at the time had either Mo Heart or Blue being the winner of the season. Jujubee is a huge fan favorite, but she kind of sleptwalked through that season and probably paid a combined 53 cents on her looks. But, you know, Juju's great, and I'm always happy to have her on my screens. When Blue eventually was decided as the winner, it was kind of like a, okay, I get it with what was left among the fans. Blue certainly played the way that Pangina played that season and deserved to win that season with the way that it shook out. But this still was a controversial result. Keeping it in the UK, I think prior to this queen on UK Series 2 winning the season, she was somebody that fans expected to come back and dominate the competition. Tia Kofi was somebody who struggled on her initial season not because she lacked personality, but because she just wasn't ready for Drag Race. After the season, she went on to host the after show related to UK and was one of the fan favorites across all of the franchises. She also improved her makeup skills and had some elevated looks following that season. When she was announced on UK vs. the World Series 2, she was already a fan favorite going into the season. Unfortunately, throughout the season, she started to become, as the fans perceived it, a favored queen. Whereas other queens like La Grande Dame and Marina Summers were killing it in the competition without the help of the judges, pushing them along as the fans saw it. On the season, Tia was given 4 top 2 positions, which landed her with 1 lip sync win. The win that I think Tia was given that most of the fans started to sour on her position in the competition was the Rusical win, where she had an okay performance. She flubbed a couple lyrics but was still given the win. This is a win that could have been given to Scarlet Envy, Anaconda, or La Grande Dame, but instead Tia was given the win, which is where the wheels started to fall off for her storyline amongst fans. Tia ended the season with a great roast and probably won both of her lip syncs that she had going into that final finale. When we reached the top 4 with Marina Summers, La Grande Dame, Anaconda, and Tia Kofi, just like the season before, a UK queen was probably going to win this series. I know that in Canada vs. the World that isn't always the case, but on UK vs. the World we only have 2 seasons and both of those have been won by a UK queen. Tia had the most wins going into that finale, and she ended up with probably better lip syncs than Hannah and Marina. At least her Anaconda lip sync was very close, and it justified giving Tia the win. In the case of Tia Kofi's win here, this is where we just had the fans wanting another queen to win more. In this case, Marina or La Grande Dame would have been a non-controversial winner. Instead, Tia was. Moving on to Canada vs. the World, we've had 2 wins that weren't nearly as controversial as the UK vs. the World wins. The first season was won by Raja O'Hara, a non-Canadian, but still a person that fans were okay with winning. In my opinion, I was a little surprised that this wasn't a controversial win. I know that the fans really like Raja, but she didn't really seem to be a large part of that season. She only had 1 win in the entire season, and most of the storyline, I feel like, focused on Isis until she ended up leaving the competition, and then on Victoria Scone and Silky Nutmeg Ganache's relationship. I don't understand why that wasn't the final lip sync with Silky and Victoria going head to head to see who would win the season. But at the end of the day, there wasn't much controversy around the results. It just surprised me. On Canada vs. the World Season 2, we had Lemon taking the crown, and I feel like the fans expected Lemon to be the winner of the season even before it was announced. But with her track record on the competition, Lemon was the only queen that never really had a flop performance. She landed high in almost every single episode, and I think in all of those cases except for maybe the ball, she deserved that position. Lemon, once we reached that finale, was the strongest Canadian in the competition, and even though I was rooting for my girl Cheryl Hole, who you'll notice I talk about a lot on this channel, I knew that Lemon was going to end up taking the crown. And I think most of the fans did too, which led to not a controversial result, but maybe an expected result. And there we have it. We will have more of these videos as time goes on, and if you guys keep watching them, I will keep making them. And let me know your favorite controversial winner in the comments. Who did you love to see win that most other people didn't? Let me know, and I will see you next time on Wild Spear.